Hey guys, I'm Taylor here from Simply Betta, and I hope everyone's having a nice day. Today I'm talking about an aquascape that has literally been years in the making. Years. This is a themed aquascape, and also one of the very first planted tanks that I ever did. The first one. I knew I wanted to make a beautiful fish tank that was packed full of beautiful aquatic plants, and I wanted it to look like Bag End, which is Bilbo's house from Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. And I was going to hand make all the decorations by myself. Yeah, I don't tend to make things very easy for myself, do I? I am a huge Lord of the Rings fan. It's not normal. In high school, I was Legolas every single year for Halloween. See, I can pull it off when I have the braid. I can totally pull off Legolas. I read a lot of fanfics. A lot. Most people have pictures of family and loved ones over their mantles. I have a framed map of Middle-earth, and I love it. Let me show you. I love it so much. The only person I know who knows more about the Lord of the Rings universe than I do is my dear husband. That's why I married him. So a few years ago, for Christmas, I decided I was going to make him a fish tank for his office. And I was going to make it beautiful and full of plants, and I was going to make it look like Bag End, which is Bilbo's house. And I just knew that he would love it. But I had no idea what I was doing. I had never even touched aquatic plants before. I never attempted to make aquarium decorations. Nothing. I was starting from no knowledge at all, zero knowledge. So the project started. It took me a while to make all of the decorations because it was very experimental. I don't want to share how I did it exactly because I must have done a step wrong along the way somewhere. I ended up having a couple decorations fail. I had cracks happen. I had to repair my decorations a few times. So I'm not really going to go into detail about how I made the decorations yet. I think I'm going to try again and then talk about it to make sure I have it right this time. And the process of learning how to maintain an aquascape, which is basically an underwater garden, was really hard. I killed off all my plants multiple times, including moss, which, is supposed to be like the easiest plant ever. Each time I told myself that I'm just gonna fix it so I can finish my project and just share it. I'm so happy to have finally completed this project. This tank that I love, but I've failed on so many times. And each time I failed, I just wanted to smash the whole tank and all the decorations with a hammer. But I didn't. I just decided to try again and not give up. I'm stubborn like that. So I thought it would be fun to show and talk about how I prepared this tank for filming and how I made it look its best. Keep in mind, I'm not a professional or a renowned aquascaper. I'm just kind of making everything up as I go. Trying to get a tank looking its best starts a long time in advance and includes things like substrate, fertilizers, lighting choices, plant choices, etc. I won't go into that. I'll just talk about what I did in the short term to make my tank pretty. The first thing to do is pretty obvious. Clean the glass. Sparkling clean glass is important, so I use a razor blade to scrape off hard water deposits and gunk. And then I use a toothbrush to polish the more hard to reach areas and the corners. Alright, I just got the glass cleaned up, so the next thing I think I'll do is I have a lot of miscellaneous plants in here that have just been sitting in spots I don't want them to be sitting in, just to sit there and grow and be healthy. I'm getting ready to put the decorations back in, so I'll go ahead and I'll take those plants out. I'm using a lot of Anubias Nana Petite. Look at this, it's a big handful of it. Just best little easy, super easy beginner plant in the whole wide world. It grows so slowly, but it is practically indestructible. So if you look closely, on the bottoms of my Anubias Nana Petites, I've actually super glued a tiny, tiny little piece of lead weight. Not real lead, it's like a fish-safe aquarium plant weight. That way it keeps these down where I want them to be instead of floating up all the time. This isn't even all of the Anubias. I have a lot more in this bowl down here. Now I made a pathway running in front of Bag End here, and there are some plants that are growing up out of the pathway that I don't think I like very much. I'm gonna go ahead and take my big tongs and pull them out. My decorations had been out of the tank for a while, so I could do a repair on some cracks. Not my finest work, but I'll do better next time. Plants were scattered everywhere, so I took them out and I pulled plants that were growing in places that I didn't want. Keeping planted tanks can lead to a lot of plant debris piling up on the bottom, especially with moss. This moss tree releases a whole lot of debris. To make sure my aquarium's nice and clean, I like to stir up all the gunk into the water column so the filter can catch it. So I use a really tiny water pump and I gently swish it around, and it works really well. It sure makes the water gross for a while though. I felt like I needed a little more substrate in a few parts of the tank. It can settle after a while. Also, having a fine particle substrate on top of a more coarse one can make it easier to plant fine little plants that like to uproot. I was adding more in using a plastic bottle. Then it was time to add in my decorations again. I moved around some plants and set them into the little hill I made. They sort of just hook on. After that, it was a matter of placing plants around in a pleasant-looking way that complemented the decorations and the general feel of my tank. I added a lot of anubias around to help hide the gaps around the decorations and fill up bare spots here and there. I even made the little steps leading up to the front door. They make it look cozy. If you're wondering what the pointy bit is on the bottom, it's just a little piece to help dig into the sand so the little stones will stay in place. I used a lot of that useful Anubias Nana Petite to fill up empty spaces. Anubias is my favorite. Some people like to glue it onto rocks or little pieces of wood too. Or tie it on with a thread. You don't need to use super glue. A lot of people use thread. Now, moving on to one of the harder things to sculpt, the fence and gate. I did a couple versions of this and failed a few times before I made the one that worked. It's really delicate and intricate. Shoving toothpicks in there was a great idea because it helped me be able to stick it down into the substrate to keep it in place. And I had to be sure to get that sign in there too, otherwise this whole scape would have been incomplete. I also can't quite get over how much I like my tetras. They're so bright and fearless and adorable. They look great in this tank. I spent plenty of time painstakingly arranging plants. I would trim my stem plants and shuffle plants and cuttings around to make it all seem as full as I could. I'm glad I had some of this really fluffy plant on hand called parrot's feather. It really helped cover up some of the fake hill I had in the background. I feel like it made a lot of difference, and all of these dense plants really helped to bring out the lush garden look that I was going for. So guys, please tell me what you think about my project. I enjoyed it so much that I think I might just do another one. What do you think would make a fun, fantasy-themed aquascape? Leave a comment down below and let me know. As always, be sure to like and subscribe, maybe share this video. If you enjoy what I do, maybe consider following me on Instagram or even becoming one of my few precious, precious supporters on Patreon. I love you guys. And have a great day. I might just stay in this all day long.
Trees like torches blaze with love. Blaze with love.